Welcome to Physics for Life. So this is a quick recap video of chapter electric charges and field. So let's start with the definition of electrostatics. So it is the study of electric charges at rest. Now frictional electricity. The property of rubbed substances due to which they attract light objects is called electricity. The electricity developed by rubbing or friction is called frictional or static electricity. The rubbed substances which show this property of attraction are said to be electrified or electrically charged substances. Now, electric charge. So it is an intrinsic property of elementary particles of matter which gives rise to electric force between various objects, and it is a scalar quantity and its SI unit is coulomb. Benjamin Franklin introduced the present-day convention that first, the charge developed on a glass rod when rubbed with silk is called positive charge, and second, the charge developed on the plastic or ebonite rod rubbed with the fur is called negative charge. Now, fundamental law of electrostatics. So it states that the like charges repel and unlike charges attract each other. Now, electronic theory of frictional electricity. During rubbing, electrons are transferred from one object to another. The object with excess of electrons develops a negative charge, while the object with deficient of electrons developed a positive charge. Now, let's understand electrostatic induction. It is the phenomenon of temporary electrification of a conductor in which opposite charges appear at its closer end and similar charges appear at its farther end in the presence of nearby charged body. An insulated conductor can be positively or negatively charged by induction. Now, electroscope. A device used for detecting an electric charge and identifying its polarity is called electroscope. The three basic properties of electric charges. First is quantization, second is additivity, and third is conservation. Additivity of electric charges. So this means that the total charge of a system is the algebraic sum of all the individual charges located at different points inside the system. Now, quantization of electric charge. This means that the total charge small q of a body is always an integral multiple of basic quantum of charge, that is E. We can write this q equals to ne, and where n is equals to 0 plus minus 1 plus minus 2 and up to this. And Faraday's law of electrostatic electrolysis and Millikan's oil drop experiment established the quantum nature of electric charge. And for microscopiology, large charges, the quantization of charge can be ignored. So now, basic quantum of charge. The smallest amount of the charge or the basic quantum of charge is the charge on an electron or proton. Its exact magnitude is 1.602182 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. You should remember only 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. So now next is law of conservation of charge. So it states that the total charge of a system remains unchanged with time. This means that when bodies are charged through friction, there is only transfer of charge from one body to another, but no net creation or destruction of charge takes place. Now next is Coulomb's law. The force of attraction or repulsion between two stationary point charges q1 and q2 is directly proportional to the product q1 q2 and inversely proportional to the square of distance r between them. Mathematically, we can write F is equals to small k q1 q2 upon r square. And the proportionality constant, this k, here you can see, depends on the nature of medium between the two charges and the system of units chosen to measure force q1, q2 and r. For free space and the SI units, the K is equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, which is equals to 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square per coulomb square. And the epsilon naught is called the permittivity of free space, and its value is 8.854 into 10 to the power minus 12 coulomb square per Newton per meter square. And hence Coulomb's law in SI units may be expressed as F is equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R square. Now SI unit of charge is Coulomb. So it is the amount of charge that repels an equal and similar charge with a force 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton when placed in vacuum at a distance of 1 meter from it. And you should be very careful about using signs that this is different and this is different and this is different, this is different. So be careful about using signs. And now permittivity represented by this epsilon. So it is a property of a medium which determines the electric force between two charges situated in that medium. And now next is dielectric constant or relative permittivity. The ratio epsilon upon epsilon naught of the permittivity of the given medium to that of the free space is known as the relative permittivity, represented by ER or this K of the given medium. So its formula will be ER, or this K will be equals to epsilon upon epsilon naught, which is equals to F vacuum upon F in medium. The dielectric constant of medium may be defined as the ratio of the force between two charges placed some distance apart in free space to the force between the same two charges when they are placed the same distance apart in the given medium. So Coulomb's law for any medium other than vacuum can be written as F in medium, which is equals to 1 by 4 epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R square, and which can be written as 1 by 4 epsilon naught K into Q1 Q2 upon R square, and finally which can be written as F in vacuum upon K. Now next is electrostatic force versus gravitational force. So electrostatic force are much stronger than gravitational forces. The ratio of electric force and gravitational force between a proton and an electron is given by this: Fe upon F G will be equals to Ke square upon G. This is mass of proton and this is mass of neutron, and which is nearly equals to 2.27 into 10 to the power 39. Now principle of superposition of electrostatic forces. So when a number of charges are interacting, the total force on a given charge is the vector sum of the forces exerted on it due to all other charges. The force between two charges is not affected by the presence of other charges, so the total force on the charge Q1 due to the charges Q2, Q3 up to Qn will be given by this formula. F1 will be equals to this is vector F12 plus vector F13 up to vector F1n, and which is equals to Q1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught summation I is equals to 2 to n, and Qi upon R1i square, and this is unit vector R1i. And further this can be written as Q1 upon 4 by epsilon naught summation I is equals to 2 to n Qi R1 minus Ri upon R1 minus Ri power 3, and where this unit vector R1i is equals to R1 minus Ri upon R1, this is modulus R1 minus vector Ri. So this is a unit vector pointing from Qi to Q1. Next is electric field. So an electric field is said to exist at a point if the force of electrical origin is exerted on a stationary charge placed at that point. So quantitatively, it is defined as the electrostatic force per unit test charge acting on a vanishingly small positive charge, test charge placed at the given point. Mathematically, we can write E is equals to limit Q naught tends to 0 F vector upon Q naught. So electric field is a vector quantity whose direction is same as that of the force exerted on a positive test charge. So now units and dimensions of electric field. So the SI unit of electric field is Newton per coulomb or volt per meter. The dimensions of electric field are force upon charge. So my tip is for you, you must remember the dimensions of force, because generally this is used in every formulas. Mostly you can see the dimensions of force are used in many formulas. So m1 l1 t minus 2 upon c, so you can write at in the place of c, and finally you will get m1 l1 t to the power minus 3 a to the power minus 1. And now next is electric field due to a point charge. The electric field of a point charge q at distance r from it is given by E is equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square. So if q is positive, then E points radially outward, and if q is negative, then E points radially inward. This field is spherically symmetric. Now electric field due to a system of point charges. And superposition principle for electric fields. The principle states that the electric field at any point due to a group of point charges is equal to the vector sum of electric field produced by each charge individually at that point when all other charges are measured to be absent. So you can write E vector will be equals to E1 plus E2 up to En, and E will be equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught summation I is equals to 1 to N, and Qi upon Rip square, and this is unit vector Rip. And finally you will get E will be equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught summation I is equals to 1 to N, and Qi upon modulus R minus Ri whole cube into R minus Ri. Now continuous charge distribution. When the charge involved is much greater than the charge on an electron, we can ignore its quantum nature and assume that the charge is distributed in a continuous manner. This is known as continuous charge distribution. So volume charge density represented by this rho, which will be equals to dq upon dv coulomb per meter cube, and surface charge density represented as sigma, which will be equals to dq upon ds coulomb per meter square, and linear charge density represented by this lambda, which will be equals to dq upon dl coulomb per meter. So now next is electrostatic force and field due to a continuous charge distribution. The total force on a charge q node due to a continuous charge distribution is given by F continuous will be equals to Fv plus Fs plus Fl, and you can write this as q node upon 4 pi epsilon naught, and in the bracket this is integration for the V rho upon r square r unit vector dv plus summation s sigma upon r square unit vector r ds plus summation l for l lambda upon r square unit vector r dl, and you can write F continuous will be equals to F vector upon q node, and finally this F continuous will be equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught this expression. So now next is electric field due to a general charge distribution. So it is given by E total will be equals to E discrete plus E continuous, and which will be equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, and the bracket summation I is equals to 1 to N Qi upon Ri square R unit vector plus this is integration for V for the volume charge density, and rho upon r square r unit vector dv plus summation s sigma upon r square r ds plus for the linear charge density lambda upon r square r dl. So now next topic is electric dipole and dipole moment. So an electric dipole is a pair of equal and opposite charges plus q and minus q separated by some distance 2a. Its dipole moment is given by this p vector will be equals to either charge into vector drawn from minus q to plus q, which will be equals to q into 2a. So the magnitude of dipole moment p will be equals to q into 2a, and the dipole moment is a vector quantity having direction along the dipole axis from minus q to plus q, and its SI unit is coulomb meter. Now next is electric field at axial point of a dipole. So the dipole field on the axial at distance r from the center is E axial will be equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into 2 pr upon r square minus a square whole power 2, which is nearly equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught 2p upon r cube, for r is greater than a, much greater than a. And at any axial point the direction of dipole field is along the direction of dipole moment p. And now next is electric field at equatorial point of a dipole. So you can see this is the formula for equatorial point. The electric field at a point on the perpendicular bisector of the dipole at distance r from its center, which will be equals to E equatorial will be equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught this, and finally you will have 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught p upon r cube, for r is much greater than a. And at any equatorial point the direction of dipole field is anti-parallel to the direction of dipole moment p, in contrast to 1 by r square dependence of the electric field of a point charge. The dipole field has 1 by r cube dependence, and moreover the electric field due to a short dipole at a certain distance along the axis is twice the electric field at the same distance along the equatorial axis. Now torque on a dipole in a uniform electric field. So the torque on a dipole of moment p when placed in a uniform electric field at an angle theta with it is given by torque will be equals to p e sin theta, or you can write that tau vector will be equals to p vector into this is cross product of p and e. And when the dipole is released the torque tends to align the dipole along the electric field, and if e is equals to 1 unit and theta will be equals to 90 degree, then torque will be equals to p. So the dipole moment may also be defined as the torque acting on an electric dipole placed perpendicular to a uniform electric field of unit strength. And now next is electric field lines of force. So an electric line of force may be defined as the curve along which a small positive charge would tend to move when free to do so in an electric field, when electric field and the tangent to which at any point gives the direction of electric field at that point. So now let's understand some important properties of the electric field lines of force. So first is lines of force are continuous curve without any breaks. Second is no two lines of force can cross each other. And third is they start at positive charge and ends at negative charge. They cannot form closed loops. Now fourth is the relative closeness of the lines of forces indicates the strength of the electric field at different points. And fifth is they are always normal to the surface of conductor. And last one, sixth is they have a tendency to contract lengthwise and expand laterally. So next is electric flux. So this is a very important topic. You must remember these properties, and most important property is no two lines of force cannot they cannot cross each other. You must remember this property. And now next is electric flux. So the electric flux through a given area represents the total number of electric lines of force passing normally through that area. If the electric field E makes an angle theta with the normal to the area elements del S, then the electric flux is given by this del phi E, which will be equals to del S cos theta, which will be equals to E dot del S. And the electric flux through any surface S, open or closed, is equal to the surface integral of E over the surface S. So you can write phi E will be equals to this is some integration S along the surface S E dot ds. And electric flux is a scalar quantity, and the SI unit of electric flux is Newton meter square per coulomb. Now let's understand Gaussian surface. So any hypothetical closed surface enclosing a charge is called Gaussian surface of that charge. And now next is Gauss theorem. The total flux of electric field E through a closed surface S is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the charge Q enclosed by the surface S. So you can see this phi E will be equals to integration along surface S E dot ds will be equals to Q upon epsilon naught. And this is very important. You must remember its derivation also. So next is electric field of a line charge. So the electric field of a long straight wire of a uniform linear charge density lambda, which will be represented as E, will be equals to lambda upon 2 pi epsilon naught r, and where this r is perpendicular distance of the wire from the observation point. And we can, from this we can write E is proportional to 1 by r, inversely proportional to the radius. So now next is electric field of an infinite plane sheet of charge. So it does not depend on the distance of the observation point from the plane sheet, and it is given by E is equals to sigma upon 2 epsilon naught, and where this sigma is the uniform surface charge density. Now next is electric field of two positively charged parallel plates. If the two plates have surface charge densities sigma 1 and sigma 2 such that sigma 1 is greater than sigma 2, let me write here sigma 1 is greater than sigma 2 and which is greater than 0. So this is given by E will be equals to plus minus 1 upon 2 epsilon naught sigma 1 plus sigma 2 for the outside of the plate, and for the inside of the plate E will be equals to 1 upon 2 epsilon naught sigma 1 minus sigma 2. Now next is electric field of two equally and oppositely charged parallel plates. So if the two plates have surface charge densities plus minus sigma, then E will be equals to 0 for the outside points, and E will be equals to sigma upon epsilon naught for the inside points. Now next is electric field of a thin spherical shell. So if capital R is the radius and sigma the surface charge density of the shell, then E will be equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q upon R square. For R is greater than capital R, which means outside the outside points, and E is equals to 0 where small r is less than capital R inside points, and last one is R is equals to capital R at the surface. E will be equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by capital R square, and where this Q is equals to 4 pi capital R square sigma. Now the last topic is electric field of a uniformly charged solid sphere. So if this where this sigma this rho is the uniform volume charge density, and this capital R is the radius of the sphere, then E will be equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r square for small r is greater than capital R outside points, and for inside points E will be equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q r upon capital R cube, and at the surface E will be equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught rho, and where this q is equals to 4 by 3 pi r cube rho. So thank you for watching the video.